Welcome everyone to this 4th of July Highland Park Trivia Contest. It's just for fun. And that's the first question to think about.
I saw the name and I want to, can I give the answer?
Type the letter into chat.
Are you supposed to give the answer in?
You can do it in chat.
Well, B, looked like B to me, Mr. Hawkins.
So Mr. Stern is correct. Frank Hawkins was the first mayor of Highland Park, and he came back in the early teens again and ran again and served again. Okay, that is correct. So Frank Hawkins was, I'm going to start from the beginning, and that's him in a Highland Park parade about 1913. He served 2 terms, 40 years apart. So here's a new one. True or false? The City of Highland Park passed a fair housing ordinance before the American Civil Rights Act of 1968.
Your guess, I would say true.
Jeff is correct. It was actually in December, 4 months before the National Act. And here we have Martin Luther King, who was doing a tour to advocate for fair housing in the 1960s. He came to Congregation Solal in Highland Park. Next question. I know, Jeff, I know you didn't like this question, but it's my favorite, and I went against your advice. Because I know you're right. So, in the 1910s in Highland Park on the public beach, a female was required to wear stockings at the beach, beginning at what age?
I'm going to guess D.
And
Probably wrong.
Jeff is correct. The age is 14. And here we have a picture as well as some of our lifeguards from Highland Park Club who kept people safe at the public beach. So what was built in 1917 in the location of the Park District's twin pools, which is now Aqua Creek? Any guesses?
I'm going to guess D, but I'm just guessing.
That is not correct. Any other guesses?
A, marsh.
No.
Well, that incinerated.
There was an incinerator built in 1917 because it was the new answer to the growing trash. And it was kind of in a valley too, where the pool's in the valley where it is now, and that was their answer. And this is a rendition of the twin pools, which have been since, of course, replaced. What was the original name of the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce? And here's a bottle from a pharmacy that was one of the original members of the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce under its original name. Any guesses?
I'm going to guess D.
Jeff is correct.
Just because it would have been unheard of to have women in such a group.
Now,
But there were women, I think, who belonged.
I know, I'm just, that's being facetious.
This association, they did not allow government employees or teachers or people of that ilk. But if you were a woman, you could join. In fact, the pharmacist who ran this pharmacy was a woman, and she was a charter member of the Highland Park Businessmen's Association. Now, when they became a chamber of commerce, they expanded their opening to members beyond others. So, true or false? The first.
That's true.
That is true. Thank you. And there it is, the Highland Hotel, where they held a meeting, and I don't think they're drinking liquor, but there was certainly a lot of cider served there. So.
But they talked a lot about liquor.
They sure did. They thought it was the root of many problems, and possibly they were right. The original name of Highland Park High School was?
I'm gonna.
Shields High School.
No. No.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh.
No.
That was my guess too.
It was originally named
Well, then it's Deerfield Township. B.
1880.
Oh, it's A?
Yes. And then it became in the 1890s Deerfield Township. Then it became in 1904 Deerfield Shields, and then 1936 reverted back to its original name, Highland Park High School. And we have
I didn't know there were all these name changes.
Isn't that interesting? But we certainly have the first commencement program where Milton Baker was the graduate, and they held it at the Presbyterian Church, and it was Highland Park High School until, again, they became a township school. So Port Clinton is a name for a city plaza, a school, a lighthouse, all of the above.
I think all of the above.
And Jeff is correct. And that picture was a hand-colored picture of the Port Clinton School. And this is the Port Clinton Lighthouse, which stood for a few years. Famous lighthouse. What are the two previous towns located in what became Highland Park?
C and D.
That is correct.
That's where you have the street.
Yes. Good job, Jeff. Jeff's their ace. What store occupied this location before Target built their store? Ford, Venture, Kmart, or none of the above?
I think it's C, isn't it? C?
No, you're correct. That is awesome.
Well, I sort of remember that.
And that's kind of what it looked like before there were any stores in it, or kind of on the outside.
Does anybody remember when Kmart was built? I think it was always there since we moved here. But I have to look
It
it
was
up.
there.
When we moved here?
I don't remember what, I know it was there.
Yeah, never mind. We don't know. We're just babbling.
Where was Ruby, Deli, plural, that means we want two answers there, located?
Well, I'm going to say A, roughly. But I have no idea, really.
Was Ruby's Deli where Mushrooms was? The restaurant?
I know where Kip's was, but,
No, this is Ruby's. Ruby's.
you know,
There were two because there was one to Fire, one on Second, and one on Central.
So I'm half right.
There's the fire.
As Jeff can tell you more than me, or more than I can tell, is that the fire safety has been very important in development of civilization.
Yeah.
He would have so many few stories to tell. There weren't for all those accidents.
What store was located on the northwest corner of Central and First in the early 1950s?
Oh, Woolworths, I'm going to say C.
Woolworths was a little bit down the street.
Oh, okay. Well, no.
I tell people when we first moved to Highland Park in 1970, there was a Woolworths and a Walgreens across the street from each
It
other.
was the Walgreens. The Fells and Woolworths were a little bit down the street, not on the corner.
Well, then it fell. Oh, no. Oh, it's Walgreens. Oh, it is Walgreens. Okay.
Yep.
But that's before it moved to the middle of the block, right?
Yeah, they move around a lot. The leases, you know.
Northwest.
Right, but where they were across the street from each other, Walgreens and Woolworths. That's what I tell them. We were really
Woolworths-
la-di-da back then.
Actually, during the Depression, embarked because they had more capital than others on a very key movement towards expansion, and that was their big push towards growth right around the Depression, and it worked in Highland Park and other places, and it goes on. So prior to the first bank of Highland Park, what was on that property? And this is one of our oldest images from the collection. It was taken around 1870.
Well, it doesn't look like there's anything there. Just, well, it's either the freight house or the tracks, and I'm trying to remember. It could be the freight house, though.
You are correct.
C.
Jeff is correct. It's the freight house.
Yeah.
You can't quite see it, but it was there, and now there's a bank.
Now, wasn't the freight house at one point an original train station and then converted to the freight house?
I don't know.
It
I
could.
think I've seen
It could
something
be.
about that.
Interesting.
But don't worry, we'll find out eventually. Somebody will inform us.
So in August 1904, what took place in Highland Park? Mayor Hawkins was reelected.
Yeah.
Ravinia Park opened and held its first performance. Highland
B.
Park. You are correct,
Ravinia Park.
Jeff.
Very important. Yeah.
And there's a little.
Given how many times Highland Park High School changed its name, that could have happened then too.
Well, actually, 1904, The high school did change its name, but not to Highland Park, from Deerfield to Deerfield Shields, to recognize that they were having the students from Shields Township attending as well. So we have some wonderful correspondence from the Chicago-Milwaukee Electric Railway in our collection in the city records, and they're been mostly digitized online in the Digital Library of America. I'm kind of promoting my collection there. So, true or false? Marching mammoths carved out the ravine, formed the moraines of Highland Park.
Great. I want to see that parade.
I don't think so.
Jeff is correct. That is not true. There is evidence that the mammoths traversed what is now Green Bay Road before humans, but the ravines and moraines were carved by glaciation. And that's a picture of the clay cliffs, kind of where St. John's Fort Sheridan was at the field trip.
Now, that mound that we're looking at is gone, right? That was used to
It
make
is
bricks.
long gone, yes. From erosion and making bricks. True or false? In 1906, the second Chicago Marathon began in Ravinia Park with the finish line in Grant Park.
I don't believe so. False. I don't think so.
In fact, that's true.
It is.
For many years, the Chicago Marathon began in Grant Park. We have pictures of the runners in front of Northwestern Military Academy and in Ravinia and ending in Grant Park. That year in 1906, the first year started in Lake Forest, and they adjusted it for the space, was a glass blower from Ontario beat all the professional runners in that 1906 race.
Do you have any idea how many people ran the marathon back then?
You know what? I have that information in a little article or blog I wrote, and it was a big attraction to professional runners. It was quite well attended. You had a few like the glass blower who were amateur, but these were
It's not like the thousands and thousands that show up today.
no. But it was a deep. It was,
Were there people along the way cheering?
there certainly were. There were people driving along in cars. There were cheaters.
Cheering.
They were cheering and cheaters.
Oh, and
Yeah. So yes.
And we know from Jeff and the discussion last year that the first paved segment of Sheridan Road wasn't until like what 1917. So these people were probably running on rougher roads than we would think.
It was 1914 when they laid that piece and completed a few years later. So, yeah.
I think B is correct, isn't it?
Jeff is correct. That's a trick question unless you know me, but that is true. The current archivist with
I didn't know that. That was an interesting factoid.
and
Yes.
was born in
We
Highland
got
Park.
shipments from Russia that came to Highland Park, New Jersey.
It had to be redirected
It
to
had to
us.
be redirected to Illinois.
We
And
get,
they claim they did it wrong. Fact of the matter is, they don't know about the other locations. They only know about our location.
well,
A lot of Springfields too. A lot of Springfields.
That's true. So when we get phone calls for Highland Park, Michigan, I generally can help the people, at least somewhat, where to go to get their information.
Yeah, we can all tell them where to go.
And just for fun, this is the handwritten act to incorporate the City of Highland Park, to make it quite the popular name in around that time. So true or false? The Stupeys were the first European settlers in the area.
False.
That is
Yeah.
The answer false.
correct.
Yeah.
Their cabin survived, the example we have, but there were many other families.
Yeah.
Mrs. Stupeys, Margarita's family, the Rectangwalds were here. This is the Sweeney's cabin, which is kind of near Fort Sheridan, between the line between Highland Park and Highwood, McDaniels, the Sheehans. But there were many other families. And thanks to the North Shore chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution, they went around at the turn of the 19th and 20th century and took pictures of these cabins that were fading away to record what this life was like. And all the images are on our catalog online. The neighborhood known as Deere Park was once the property of Catherine Deere Butterworth. John Deere Company, Frank Hawkins, or Charles Deere?
Oh, yeah, we talked about this.
There was a presentation about 10 days ago on this topic.
Yes, how quickly we forget. Uh, I think Charles Deere, D.
I think Jeff is correct. Charles Deere was.
But he never lived here. It was an investment property.
Well, that's
Oh,
undelegate.
that's okay. But we did have a Rockefeller.
And a Rosenwald, and a Kimball, and a Hoover. So who was not an original member of the Highland Park Building Company?
Was it be, I'm guessing C, I don't know. I'm
No,
just,
the
that's a,
person was a member, he was the landscape architect.
oh, yeah.
The person that was not a member, I'll give you a hint, was the man who sold the land to the Highland Park Building Company.
Was that old Corny there? No.
No,
B? No. Not B.
it is Walter Gurnee.
Oh,
He originally owned the land under a company called Port Clinton, and he
oh
sold
yeah.
the settlement
Yeah, that's
to
right.
the Highland Park Building Company. So the Village of Ravinia annexed to the City of Highland Park in what year?
D.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. 1899 by popular vote. And the people,
Oh, it was. Okay, so it was willingly done.
there was not the first election, and there was opposition in both areas.
There's a nice picture of that development, or part of it, in the Ravinia station today. There's
that's
a
right.
picture on the wall, which the Ravinia Neighbors Association, of that Ravinia Woods development, at least the start of it.
Oh, I know what picture you're talking about. That's a cool picture. Yeah. And the thing of it was, Ravinia had a relatively small population, and they had a post office and this and that, but they needed more funds to share for sidewalks and lights and that sort of thing. We just added one more person. So yes, 1899 is the correct answer. Welcome. George Gershwin once practiced on this hotel's lobby piano before a Ravinia performance.
I'm going to say A.
And Jeff would be correct. Hotel Moraine on the Lake was often the host to people coming to perform at Ravinia, and sometimes people for the whole summer. And there you go.
That must have been a thrilling moment to see that concert in the lobby.
And nobody laughed when he sat down at the piano to play. That's an old gag. They all laughed. Nobody laughed.
There we go. Hotel Magda's beautiful footpath, designed by Jens Jensen. Above the hotel, no longer there. How many times was the Northwestern Military Academy destroyed by fire?
I'm going to say twice.
You
C.
are correct, Jeff. There's a picture of those.
And then it moved.
Well, they moved twice. They first were in originally which was a hotel and a girls' school, and then Mayor Boynton, architect Boynton, designed the new building, and the boys, when they set that one on fire, were afraid to call the police. On the fire, they tried to put it out themselves, and that's how that ended. True or false? Olympic medalist, this is 1964, bronze pair skating medalist, Vivian and Ron Joseph were not on the fatal 1961 Sabena Flight 549 because their mother would not let them miss school.
I'm going to say true.
And good mother, too.
Is true. Vivian was at Edgewood at the time, and Ron was at Highland Park High School, and she did not want them pulling out of school, even for the World Figure Skating Championship, and they survived, and were really what was only left of the team at that point. True or false? The Ravinia post office. Now, Ravinia was once a village, and they kept using Ravinia, Illinois, until the postmaster really put his.
That's true. That's true. It's there today.
Some soupy cabin beer, which you can have at the brewery. A little bit hot for my taste, but that's okay.
And I was given one can to taste that I immediately lost. I've never tried it yet.
I like the Grunts.
Are they still making that Ravinia Stupeys Cabin Brewery?
I believe so.
Okay, then one of these days I have to go buy one.
Okay, Fort Sheridan was originally named Fort Lazarus Aberbrooke, the commune, Fort Dearborn, or Camp Highwood.
Huh.
Fort Dearborn.
No,
No.
no, no, it must be Camp Highwood.
Jeff is
D.
correct.
Has to
Oh.
be.
So is there a Lazarus Aberbrooke, or did you just make that up out of the air?
No, Lazarus was a young Russian Jewish immigrant who was upset about something, so went to the Chicago police home, chief's home, and then the chief shot him. It was a very famous case, and he said so that was kind of, you'd love to know a little bit about Chicago history and anarchy and political science, I guess. Because
I'll have to look it up. Thank you.
a whole book about him at the library and on I'm doing promotion. Okay, well, so thank you for participating. And happy July. And if you have any archives questions, I am here to answer them for you. And I want to thank Jeffrey Stern and Catherine for their help with that, and some questions to a little bit more, diverse from my selection from Ron Chef.
That was terrific.
Anyone have any questions? I'm happy to answer questions about Highland Park history, about our wonderful collections and how to use them.
Aren't you going to also do a parade of those images?
I do have a parade of images.
Sorry, you can ask your questions. I was just hoping to see that part too.
I had it running before.
That's what I was trying to figure out, how to get the TV to work.
I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a good mental exercise this morning.
So what time is it roughly right now? Or is it approaching 10 o'clock when the real parade will begin? Because we're still watching the dog and pony show.
Who's on the horseback there? Who was that?
You know
Who was
what?
that masked man? No.
It was August Hack.
Going back.
August Hack, H-A-A-K, who...
Wait a minute. Go back.
It's on autoplay.
Wait. No, there was a horseman.
Yes.
One guy on a horse. There he is in the corner.
Orson Brand to the right.
This one just on horseback.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Hack.
Orson, Brand.
And Brand's off to the side. Brand's not on the horse. That's Mr. Hack on the horse. And Brand's off to the side, kind of cut off in the photo.
Were you hoping for George Patton?
I figured he must have gotten lost. He took the wrong road out of Fort Sheridan.
He
Yeah.
was a man about town who had a bad habit of picking up high school girls and telling
Okay.
them he was, and giving false names and telling them he was 23. And there's several interesting Tribune articles about his exploits with young women.
Uh-huh.
Not left an impression on me, I have to say. But he had an airplane, he had cars, he was really the man about town. But kind of
Who was the man about town? Was that Brand you said?
So,
August Hack. Orson Brand was a stout, loyal family man. August Hack, H-A-A-K. We have a picture of his plane is hanging up in City Hall.
Wow.
Very successful businessman.
so Patton had some he won some contest here, in other words.
For horse riding, but that was not him. Yes, he did. Horse riding, fencing, very. No, see, I don't know if I can pull up this picture larger than. I can make it larger, yes. I can do
Yeah,
that.
there it is.
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah.
So there's
so
horse
So when you see that profile, the tiles, you don't really see anything. Oh, much better. Was that his airplane?
No, that was someone else. His name was Everts. He won third prize. I thought it was a great float. I thought it was better than the first one.
What is it?
Yes, it looks like an airplane.
Yeah, it's a biplane.
Okay.
Sure.
Says 1913. We don't know who the gentlemen are, but that's interesting because that is a rare photo of the second water tower that was replaced in the 20s.
in the same location.
Exactly. Here we have a barbershop quartet singing in the parade in the 70s. I don't know whose dog that is. That's an awfully cute dog.
And very obedient.
Precursor of the pet parade. Now, it turns out the person who is the drum master or for this marching band is on Facebook and recognized himself and was so happy to see a picture from when he marched in the 1966 parade.
Yay!
Yeah. Here we have the fire department all gussied up for the parade. This is again the fire department, always participating in the parade when it's there. And in fact, I got the fire chief's son contacted me because he is on the float. The former fire chief's son. These are some of my favorite pictures of archives of these young men who were the lifeguards on the first public beach, which was chaperoned by the woman of the Asoli Club, all part of the Highland Park Club. And this is Anna Rindale. Her parent, I don't remember if she was born in Sweden but her parents were, and her father owned a livery, and they had all kinds of carriages.
He owned a library?
Livery,
What
L-I-V. A stable.
Oh, a livery. Oh, livery. Okay.
Livery.
That's what happens when you read more than you talk.
Livery.
There is the Highland Park Historical Society Parade, 1972. I guess that's Bill Brown driving the car, he told me, and that's the beloved Garnet. Now this is not, we found out, thanks again to participants on Facebook, this is not actually the Society I don't want to say in French, because they actually had their own parade. It's a small honor society for veterans that
nice.
They named themselves in honor of the boxcars they traveled in France in World War I, which held 40 men and 8 horses.
40 and 8, 40 hommes et 8 chevaux. Yeah.
Wow, I learned so much here.
And these are, I think Navy, I'm not sure. Marching Dutch Mill Gardens and Woodtown Central. The Zalney Dairy, which was one of the early family farms out by Ridge Road. Zalney actually sold their dairy to Bowman around 1915 or 1920. They were the local dairy for many years. Chamber of Commerce, Highwood, our neighbors next door. And this is the start of the parade, and according to notes on the back of this postcard, this is again a Ringdahl vehicle. And people would line up and decorate their cars, ready to go to the parade.
Was that an auto, that first one? There?
Well, I don't know. I had the same question.
It looks like a regular horse and wagon. I mean, horse. I don't.
Notes as a Surrey. So
yeah, there's no place for a motor in there, is there? No.
No.
And no steering.
No.
And keep in mind that the speed limit in Highland Park was 8 miles an hour. So they weren't going too fast.
Really?
So we don't have any notes on this postcard, but I'm guessing because a couple times in the 19-teens, the Ravinia Opera Stars did Madame Butterfly. That's perhaps Ravinia folks in there, but we don't know. And I remember they had the lanterns and the umbrellas in the pictures from the performance.
Mary Garden, was she the one, or who was somebody?
She was not in that.
No.
When I was researching this image, I looked it up. She was not the year she was doing that. But those are probably Ravinia Opera Stars in the parade. And that is Apple Tree Theater with their puppets. And Bryna Gamson sent that to us, and that is her, I believe.
Weenie Todd.
Yes, precisely.
I read the description.
There you go. So Bowman's Milk, which was eventually, they persisted when Dean Foods introduced the cardboard boxes. Bowman said milk is healthier in bottles. They persisted, and eventually Dean's bought them out. You can still see the Bowman building if you take the Metro north in the Ravenswood neighborhood. I've noticed it several times on my commute.
Yeah.
but
That's
they
right.
lost women's bottles, and they lost that battle that milk in bottles was healthier. Dean said no.
But how they elaborately decorated these vehicles. You know, it almost looks like we're at the Rose Bowl parade, not the Highland Park parade.
This is a very big deal now, which is funny. In this parade in 1915, Bowman won first prize in what they call, and Zalnay's won second prize, two dairies. And the same newspaper that announced the prizes announced that Bowman's had bought Zalnay's.
Wow. In the same paper article, in the same day?
Both on the front page.
Wow.
And this also Bryna sent to me from 1980, the League of Women Voters float encouraging people to vote. And I don't know why they had a bathtub in the parade. This is from the 70s, late 60s. And I did not get any input from people telling me what or why. Now this is Bowding was a grocery store, and they always had beautiful elaborate floats with animals and mock-ups, and here you have the meat counter. Family enterprise. Marching animals, there you go. What's a parade is a parade. They go on and on.
I was a pig one year.
I think you're in here, I believe.
Well, at least what I used to do, yeah.
And apparently this was the Historical Society float. Were dressed up in fur coats for some reason. And as I think most people on this know now, or will know, that from the late 19th century until 1993, Fort Sheridan stood on Highland Park's border and was a large army base, at one point one of the largest, and they always participated in the parades. Here we have Duffy moving. Duffys were one of the early families that came, with the European people that came to Highland Park. They had many little businesses around town, including a moving company, and this was their float. And here we have someone.
That was before they opened their tavern.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Anti our own bodies and immune system, and everything has to be vaccines and pharmaceuticals.
Well, people, you just at the crapshoot, you don't know. You get the disease, you'll know that, 4% of the people that get it are going to die, probably. So,
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's
and a lot of people who have disease, that's how they.
Okay, there we go. I'm sure they didn't mean to do that. So there's the pigs. There's Catherine.
Oh yeah, so I wore a pig head, like the costume with the pink pants. I did it in the early 70s. I remember there was an ice skater, Olympic ice skater, high speed ice skater, woman, Bonnie, whatever. Sorry. And yeah, and then my reward at the end, because it was hot. Those were paper mache heads. That was not a comfortable thing. And then at the end, I got a little gift certificate for McDonald's for a hamburger, a Coke, and fries, and I was so pleased with that.
So welcome. We have some people.
No, I'm skipping the story.
Yeah. So bicycles have been a part of the parade for as long as it's been parades in Highland Park, as long as they've been. But at this point, bicycles were a relatively new invention. We have the kids here. They just crossed the tracks, it looks like. So Bishop Heating was a long-time fixture in Highland Park in the 20th century. They're now part of Ravinia Plumbing and Heating. And again, I did not get any comments on this photo, and I'm not quite sure what they're doing. So maybe someone will at some point pipe in and tell us. And for those of you who are joining us, the color photos here were taken by Henry X. Ehrenberg. And the black and white photos are a mix. Many are taken by Orson Brand, who's a local photographer, and some of them are family shots, and we're not sure who the photographer was. So here we have, for those of you who don't know about Tillman's Water, Highland's health drink, near where Park Avenue is. There was a spring and aquifer that was discovered by the farmers there, and for many years they sold water in Highland Park and elsewhere, and the company was actually just sold within the last decade or so to Perrier, and who's owned by Nestle. So in its own way, it still exists. And the Tillman family, though, for many years, for more than 100 years, owned this water company.
That's over by Ridge Road and Old Deerfield Road there near the police station across.
No, it's farther north.
It's the one north of Park Avenue.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember which. Yeah.
Okay. So the Moose Lodge, which actually still exists, which is a fraternal organization. Here's a Boy Scout or Cub Scout float from the early 70s. And this is, the Kmart was a type of photo processing in the early 20th century. And we don't know who these young women are, but they have their bicycles direct. It's like 1913, and someone wrote on there, Highland Park is right. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but there you have these. Seem like they had a lot of work put into their costumes and bicycles. And there's again the Duffy float. It looks like to me the Duffy float from looking through the other pictures. And they're crossing the Central Avenue Bridge because after Highland Park Day, which happened sometimes in the 19th century, and then the Chamber of Commerce held it from 1910 and 11 until 1928, when then they merged it into 4th of July. They're crossing the Central Avenue Bridge to Central Park, where they had a kind of a community party every year. And it seemed like they're having a lot of fun. Now that is the standing. That is Mayor Hastings there. Mayor Hastings was one of the Highland Park Code and made a lot of changes to administration in Highland Park. And we're not sure who the people are. There might be Orson Brand, I can't quite tell. He's kind of been over, I can't see his face. That's a viewing stand for the park, for the parade. And then we have our Mr. Hack, whom I discussed previously, and Orson Brand there. That is Orson Brand over in the corner there.
Ah, okay.
And the airplane. Someone suggested, because this was the 1913 parade, that the airplane float was in honor of Kitty Hawk and of 1903 anniversary of the Wright brothers. But from the newspaper articles and all the information we have, I don't have any indication that it was in any way in recognition of that. It was just, he liked planes. I'd love to, we always like to get more information about things, so that helps us. And then again, we have these gentlemen down the street, and this is it's very similar. It's more than one shot to these of that water tower that we have very few pictures of, and I was happy to finally notice that when I was doing this, putting this together. And of course, there's always a marching band with these parades. I don't know how many are parades fans, but I don't know. And then again, Barbershop Quartet. This is the Society for the Preservation of Barbershop Quartets, the county line chapter, and I'm sure they were singing. And I think we're rolling back, we're going back, we're through the whole, and that's one of my favorites. It wasn't a pet parade, but someone had their dog. So that's fun. Does anyone have any questions?
No, but this was a real labor of love, and I've been enjoying looking at the pictures daily on Facebook the last month or so.
Hi, Leah. It's good to see you. Hi, Mr. Goldstein. I don't know you, but I'm saying hello.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. The Ravinia Opera burned down in 1949. You're aware of that?
Yes, I am.
You know who reported the Ravinia fire? The first person to call the fire department?
I do not know that answer offhand. Jeff might.
My mother. 394 Delta Road. We backed up into Ravinia Park. Our property touched the edge of the park. And we had a party that night, and a guest said to my mother, look, there's a flame in the park. And my mother knew that that was wrong, and she called the fire department, and they came. And it was reported in the Highland Park News that the wind came off the lake and blew west. If the wind had been blowing east, all of Highland Park would have burned up.
Well, I guess
And
that's.
I remember I was 5 years old. I was taken in a car to the end of our street, and I remember the wall of flame going up into the sky and blowing west. Very frightening. But it was written up in the newspapers. That's how I've documented it. My name.
We have pictures of it as well that are part of our collection, have been digitized with money from the Secretary of State.
I didn't hear you. What?
We're recently completing a grant from the Illinois Secretary of State. It's actually a Library in Ravinia grant, and we digitized images of Ravinia and the programs. And I don't know when the state's going to publish it. However, there were some fire images that were part of that that are now going to be available online.
Excellent. I'll look for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Leah, for stopping by. So I want to wish everyone a happy Independence Day and 4th of July. And I'm going to sign off now and say bye-bye.